So we found out this morning, by now I'm sure most of you have heard, terrible situation, about a bus crash. I keep wanting to not call it that. A bus slamming into a daycare center in St. Rose, Laval. There are sadly 2 children who have died. There are 6 others in hospital. They don't fear for their lives. It's a horrific accident. And what's even worse now is trying to understand how and why this happened. We know the name of the bus driver who was driving that bus. We don't know a whole lot more. ANDRÉ DUROCHER is a former communications. I want to give you your right title. So when you work with the Montreal Police, you were in the communications department. You were kind of liaison for media. For
the media, yes. And I was also responsible for the collision accident investigation unit. So that gives me an idea of what's going on.
So let's go back to this morning. We find out fairly soon what this person's name was, how old he was, and now we're finding out he'll be in court actually in Laval this afternoon.
Yeah, that's the stuff that goes on very quickly. Now what's going on as we're talking, probably you have investigators digging up that person's past. You start from this morning and then they work their way back. Was he on social media? Was there anything involving his family, his wife? Did he have a beef previously with his employer? They're probably going to ask his employer cooperation to have access to his file. Was there anything with regards to mental health? Those are all the type of things that will take hours, maybe days before we know.
What did you hear this morning at the scene? Because we had a witness that played some audio where he
was in distress and
after
crisis.
Driving that bus into the daycare. They had to hold him down before police arrived, had to drag him off the bus. What did you heard?
I heard the same thing, and I heard that apparently he took his clothes off shortly after. So obviously, we're not, none of us here are psychologists or psychiatrists, but nevertheless, somebody who does something like that. I was listening to a psychologist or a psychiatrist on radio on the way here, and the person was saying, well, let's be careful before we talk about mental illness. However, anybody who does that, innocent children, and on top of that, what he did, there's got to be something wrong. I'm not a doctor, but
let me ask you, what tells you about this crime scene that this was potentially a deliberate act?
Well, first of all, you look at the geographic setting, the way it's done. You cannot, there's like a half circle, and normally to go over there, you have to go like voluntarily. And second of all, when you look at the strength of the impact, the bus going through a structure, it has got to be deliberate. At first, when the first information came in, I said, could be somebody who had a heart attack. Nobody. But shortly after, we realized that was
you're
deliberate.
dealing. We talked about this earlier. You're dealing when you look at the picture from an aerial view. Yeah. There's a roundabout. Yeah. There's a driveway. There are cars on both sides of the driveway. You'd be lucky if you could drive down there and not hit something. So for this bus to make a beeline for the front, and I think one of the witnesses says as well, they sensed the bus was speeding up when it hit the daycare center. Hard to imagine that was an accident.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Plus, with the accident investigators, they'll be able to tell probably the speed that the vehicle was going at before. What did the person put on the brakes? There's a lot of information you could get from the vehicle. So that's what's going to be determined in the next couple of days.
Does the investigation begin immediately? I imagine first you're just trying to let the paramedics, let the first responders do the work that they need to do and make sure that people are being saved. But does the investigation already start as soon?
It starts because from the moment you have a scene, if you looked at it this morning, very early on, they said it's probably criminal or voluntarily. At that moment, you treat it as a crime scene. That means you're trying to identify potential witnesses and also make sure that your witnesses are not contaminated by other witnesses. So you identify a lot of people. Some people may not be able to speak immediately, but at least you want to get their name, their coordinate, and everything, so the investigators can communicate with them. And there's many witnesses around the scene.
You mentioned the mental health issue, but you heard we're going to have a psychologist on talking about this issue as well. Is there within the Montreal Police, for a situation like this where let's say that mental health may be involved, you have a special unit, a person who heads up an investigation like that, or is that just part of the regular investigation?
No, that's part of the regular investigation, but as far as having a specialist, you'll have a specialist probably from the defense side, I take it. If there was going to be
when this goes to court,
when it goes to court. But for the rest, the only psychological intervention that will probably take place is with the officers and the first responders, because let's not forget, a lot of them have young children.
Yeah.
So they were impacted by it. And having been in some situations, what happens normally, your instincts take over when you have to intervene in those situations like that. And it's only after, probably tonight, when some of the officers, the ambulance, firefighters go home, that they'll decompress and then, live out the situation.
You know, it's interesting. We had someone from Urgence Santé on earlier in the show saying that same thing. They had a lot of, obviously, units on the scene today. They already have set up, psychological counseling for the people who work for Urgence Santé, who do this every day, who had to be there this morning and hopefully, didn't have to see what was there, but probably did. Police doing the same thing. You're just saying that, right? Police who showed up will have the availability of psychological counseling for them because they may experience some reaction well after the fact, not even now.
Oh yeah, so some officers will experience that situation maybe tonight, but some others it may be a couple of weeks later. I'm sure some of these first responders, when they go home tonight, they'll hug their children.
Yeah.
You ever been on a scene like this?
I've been on a scene with young children involved, and it's funny, every time I talk about this, one of the first scenes I saw was a child that had drowned in a swimming pool. God. And I'm talking to you right now, it's over 35 years ago, and now I have the image in my head. I don't lose sleep over it at night anymore, but I could see the image in my head immediately.
Because you had a job to get done, and so you show up and you get the job done, but that doesn't mean that you're not emotionally impacted by it. Exactly,
and it's more so. I don't have any children, but I know that officers who have children are affected even more than other people. They sort of do,
So to recap, you have a suspect arrested. He's charged with
dangerous driving and homicide, but that could always change over time. The important thing is to charge him having appear before a judge, and then there will be a lot of evidence being accumulated in the next coming hours or days.
If you had to guess how long something like this will take till we find out, if we ever find out what exactly happened.
Having done this for about 5 years, it could take months. However, you have something that's very particular. This situation attracts worldwide media attention, and we're talking about children, so you could be sure that no resources will be spared to get this thing through.
That's good to hear.
It is. André, I want to thank you so much for coming in. It's good to
pleasure.
see you.
Likewise.
And wish you all the best.